Hi there. I've had a lovely dream last night. Uh, I dreamt that I attended an international meeting or conference or something like that, um, at the center of which was this holy man, or Imam, I think, as you might say from the Islamic world. And he was in the center of the room, and there were lots of people there, US senators, people from non governmental organizations, victims of 9/11 and their families, some of them. There were also some rather dubious looking characters that looked like they could either be Mossad agents, Israeli agents, or Al Qaeda, or interchangeable. Anyway, so there were those people there, and there were some people from other faiths and born again Christians, and I don't know, even personalities from the media and celebrities. And they were all there to listen and to question the holy man of Islam, who was seated in the middle of all this. And obviously, there were lots of questions, some of them quite hostile and some of them quite facetious, which he answered very well, quoting liberally from the Quran, because he was a very great scholar of the Quran. And But he also had common sense, so he answered the questions in a common sense, matter of fact sort of way, backed up with the quotes from the Quran. So he was nobody's fool, you know. And he had this common sense and he had this scholarship behind him, but he also had this wonderful psychic energy. And in the end, this psychic energy, this charisma, as one might call it, permeated the whole room. And pretty soon, all those people that were shouting, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, and the US is the great Satan, and other meaningless slogans, which don't mean anything because their definition of the words that these slogans use are not defined at all. So they don't actually mean anything, and they're completely hopeless and meaning and inappropriate. So once all the sloganizing had died down, everyone just shut up and listened to the main sermon given by this holy man from Islam about jihad, and the meaning, the sort of mystical meaning of jihad, which, as far as I could understand it from the sermon. And I mean, he's one of those sermons that speaks to everybody according to their consciousness. So, what I took from the sermon, I suppose, represents my own consciousness or my own understanding of religion, which is basically that jihad. It means that is struggle, and it's kind of one thing to say you're going to be good, and another thing to actually deliver on the goods. It's one thing to say that you believe in the five pillars of Islam, and you will abide by these, and another thing to actually do it. Because actions speak louder than words. That's one thing, and by your actions, you demonstrate to what degree you have taken the five pillars of Islam into your heart, and that you have developed a sort of, or might call a Muslim super ego, which means basically that you develop a conscience, that you develop a way of life which reflects the requirements of the faith, as it is applied to this world of practical endeavors and temptations. um, and um, and basically, you've got to do this. The struggle. You do this struggle well. Firstly, alone on one hand, but on the other hand, within the context of the Islamic community, either your local community or your community online, your world community of Islam, and so you are bound to take on a sort of self promise, as it were, as you will, to establish the five pillars of Islam within your life, and within your heart, as demonstrated on the practical level. So, so it's practical energy on one hand, and a kind of mysticism on the other. But mysticism without practicality is not really mysticism. And practicality leads to just simply religious materialism, which is also not according to the will of God. And you establish the five pillars of Islam within your own life, and then you establish them within your own household, establishing peace within your home, and then within your local community, as far as you are able. And then, about at that point, you stop, because you must allow two things to happen. One, you must allow the fact that if every Muslim in the world did this, then the jihad would in fact be successful, because an Islamic republic, if you like, would be established at the grassroots level. And you would belong to an enlightened Islamic community, worldwide community, which would then do a lot of good within the world. And partly, you must also allow the will of God, alhamdulillah, to operate within this world. And then, once you've established the five pillars of Islam within yourself, within your home, within your local community, and you are behaving within your local community to other people as you would want them to behave towards you within the context of Islam, then it doesn't matter what Israel does or does not. It doesn't matter what Saudi Arabia does or does not. It does not matter about geopolitical forces. It does not matter whether the USA is the great Satan or not, whatever that means, because only Allah knows what all these things mean on a sort of macro level. And at the end of time, Allah will judge those people that have successfully struggled to establish and to maintain the five pillars of Islam within themselves, within their families, and within their communities, local communities. So, everything else is just left up to the will of God to decide. And that if you take on the great beast of this world with guns and bombs, the great beast of this world will win, and you will lose, because you have not submitted to the will of God, and you have not submitted to the will of God in respect of the establishment of the five pillars of Islam in your life. So obviously, he was preaching a message of peace, and goodwill to people everywhere in the world, not just to Muslims, but to all the peoples of the book, the Torah, the Quran, and the Christian Bible, and to other people as well, other religions as well, we all have an internal struggle against the forces of predation, exploitation, and manipulation which are present in each of us, against the forces of traitorship, as I might say. We are all traitors to something, traitors to ourselves and traitors to the cause and traitors to living ethically. We all betray, if you like, ourselves and God Himself, and we all, we are all establishing the five pillars of Islam on one hand, but we also have termites within ourselves that are busy trying to destroy the foundations of the five pillars in order to bring them down. I mean, they won't succeed ultimately because the will of Allah will not permit that. But they can do a lot of damage and cause a lot of suffering as they try, in fact, their best to undermine your commitment to religion and your commitment to the ethical life. And this is more or less what the sermon is about. But as I said, he exuded this incredible charisma, this incredible, like in the presence of this holy man. One could almost touch the ineffable God. And you sort of felt like you converted to Islam there and then, kind of, just standing up and saying three times that I follow Allah and His Prophet Muhammad, blessed be his name, and all his family. So but without scholarship, a charismatic religious person could in fact be demonic. And so it's better to always go with a person that has scholarship of the Quran or of the Bible or of the Torah, rather than going for just a charismatic person. But occasionally you find when scholarship and charisma come together, then you have what I suppose can be called a holy man, and a holy man that speaks to all people as well. So the holy man at that meeting ended up speaking to everybody, no matter who they were, whether they were representing terrorism or fundamentalism or the U.S. Senate or NGOs or anybody really, or the representing the victims of 9/11 and of terrorism generally. And it was great that it was a fantastic meeting. And then finally, I suppose, as a sort of very little supplemental issue or item or issue, and departing from that wonderful meeting, which had quietened everybody and made everybody, thoughtful and reflective, rather than seeking some kind of external materialistic solution to the problem of geopolitical expansion from the West and blah blah blah. When people actually quiet and left the room in a quiet way, um, I saw these couple of girls go down the stairs of this big building where we were, and they had French perfume to rock the room, as the song says, and they were all dressed up in the uniform of clubbing, which is the short skirts and the short blouse